Hello, miladies of inestimable value. The rarest form of love isn't shouted. It hides in silence, in gestures too subtle for the untrained eye. Psychologists say that people reveal their truest feelings not in what they say, but in the micro-behaviors they can't control. And when a man falls for a Sigma female, the most self-contained and mysterious archetype of women, those hidden signs become even more fascinating. He won't shower her with clichés, nor chase her like a fool in a rom-com. No, his love leaks out in the strangest, most secretive ways that would fly right over the average person's head. And here's the funny part, half the time even he doesn't realize he's giving himself away. It's like his subconscious is betraying him, whispering, "Yes, you're in love," while his mouth insists, "Nah, I'm good." Today we're diving into those invisible cracks where truth slips through, the secret behaviors that only appear when a man is truly in love with a Sigma female. These aren't the obvious signs everyone talks about. These are the ones hidden in plain sight, the ones you'll only notice if you know exactly where to look. Number 1, he forgets to game her. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, something strange happens to his usual playbook. All the tricks, lines, and strategies he once relied on with other women suddenly feel useless, almost embarrassing. Around her, game dies. Not because he forgot how to charm, but because he realizes it won't work on her, and more importantly, he doesn't even want it to. The Sigma female has a radar for performance. She can smell when someone is putting on a mask, exaggerating stories, or stretching truths just to look impressive. Men sense this about her without needing it explained, and it makes them abandon the idea of putting up a front. He knows that if he tries to run the usual routines, she'll see through them in seconds, and worse, she'll lose respect for him instantly. And respect is something a Sigma female doesn't hand out twice. So his raw self comes forward, often without him even noticing. The rough edges, the quirks, the contradictions, everything he would usually polish or hide suddenly comes out because he feels both exposed and strangely safe in her presence. He realizes that with her, pretending is more dangerous than being vulnerable. This doesn't mean he becomes awkward or powerless. In fact, it's the opposite. When he drops the act, his real character begins to breathe, and that's what draws her attention. The Sigma female doesn't fall for rehearsed lines or flashy performances. She connects with authenticity, the kind most people are too scared to show. And in love with her, he can't help but default to that authenticity because he wants her to see him, not a curated version of him. It can even throw him off balance at times. Men used to controlling situations through charm or status suddenly find themselves second-guessing why they're speaking plainly, why they're not flexing their best stories, why they're showing softness instead of dominance. The truth is, love makes him honest against his will, and that's the hidden beauty of it. A Sigma female forces him to strip down the act, not by demanding it, but by simply being who she is. When he's in love with her, he stops trying to game her and starts trying to reach her. That shift says everything. Number 2, he becomes a vault for her secrets. When a Sigma female opens up, even slightly, it's not something to take lightly. She doesn't scatter her thoughts and feelings around the way most people do. She measures what she shares, and with whom, like someone handling rare artifacts. So when a man is truly in love with her, and she lets him into that guarded space, he doesn't treat her words as casual. They become sacred. He doesn't gossip, he doesn't hint, he doesn't even use her secrets as leverage to look closer to her in front of others. Instead, he tucks them away in silence with a kind of loyalty that feels old-fashioned in a world obsessed with oversharing. To him, her trust is like a one-time code. Use it wrong, and it will never work again. He knows if he ever slips, if he lets one thing she revealed in confidence leak, she'll vanish from his life without a backward glance. Sigma females don't negotiate with betrayal. They don't give second chances when it comes to trust. What makes this behavior so striking is that it doesn't come from fear alone. It comes from reverence. He recognizes that being trusted by someone who lives so independently and guards her inner world so tightly is not ordinary. It feels rare, and that rarity changes him. He starts to guard her words more fiercely than he guards his own. You'll notice this devotion in the way he listens. He won't just hear her, he absorbs her, almost storing every detail for safekeeping. Later he might surprise her by recalling a line she thought he forgot, or by protecting her interests in a room where she isn't present, guided only by what she once confided in him. That's how deeply her trust reshapes his loyalty. For him, being her vault isn't a burden, it's proof of closeness. And the paradox is, the more he guards her secrets, the more she instinctively senses she can share. That cycle deepens his love and secures her respect. A man in love with a Sigma female doesn't just keep her secrets, he guards them like his very access to her soul depends on it, because in truth, it does. Number 3. He protects her name in rooms she'll never enter. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, his loyalty shows up in places she'll never see. He doesn't wait for her to be around to act right, he does it in silence, in the background, where it actually matters. If her name comes up in a negative light, he doesn't just sit there politely, he dismantles the insult piece by piece. Not with loud theatrics or a big scene, but with sharp precision, shutting it down so it doesn't grow legs. This isn't about earning her praise or coming back later to say, "Look what I did for you." In fact, she may never know, and that's what makes it genuine. He's not defending her out of performance. He's defending her because her integrity matters to him more than social approval. When someone tries to smear her name, he treats it like an attack on truth itself, like a principle that cannot be compromised. Most men only defend a woman's reputation when they think it'll get them points or public admiration. But when it comes to a Sigma female, the man who loves her doesn't need an audience. He'll defend her even if nobody claps, even if it puts him at odds with others, even if it costs him socially. That's because he knows her worth firsthand, and her dignity becomes something he protects instinctively. What's even more revealing is the way he does it. He doesn't beg others to respect her. He makes it clear that disrespecting her is not an option. His words carry a quiet authority, the kind that makes people think twice before ever speaking her name carelessly again. And the truth is, he isn't just defending her. He's declaring in his own way that his loyalty is non-negotiable. This hidden behavior says more than grand gestures ever could. A Sigma female might never know the number of battles fought on her behalf behind closed doors. But if she did, she'd realize something powerful. A man in love with her sees her name as untouchable. To him, protecting her reputation isn't just an act of love, it's a matter of honor. Number 4. He plans for permanence without announcing it. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, he doesn't always talk about forever, but his actions quietly betray him. He plans for permanence without putting it into words. You won't hear long speeches about commitment or promises written in the air. Instead, you'll see the subtle engineering of his life start to shift, piece by piece, in ways that include her without ever announcing it. He might rearrange his schedule so their paths naturally align more often. He'll start making decisions with an invisible filter in place. Would this still make sense if she were part of my world? He won't say it out loud, but it sits in the back of his mind like a compass, steering his choices. That new job he considers, the city he thinks of moving to, the investments he starts exploring, they all carry the unspoken calculation of her presence. This isn't the same as being clingy or desperate. In fact, it's almost unnoticeable because it's so quiet. He's not chasing her with declarations, but weaving her into the architecture of his future. It's his way of building a foundation without pressure, so that if she decides to stay, the framework is already there. And here's where it gets interesting. Even she might not catch it at first. A Sigma female is so used to people trying to claim her openly that the silent consistency of his planning feels different. It doesn't suffocate, it steadies. While other men might try to lock her down with words, he shows her something rarer. He builds permanence by making space, not by demanding it. If you look closely, you'll notice these signals in the smallest places. The way he introduces her to parts of his life that last. Friends who matter, passions that define him, commitments he won't abandon. The way he avoids short-term distractions that could jeopardize long-term stability. Even the way he manages risk changes, because deep down he's factoring in the possibility of her being part of his world permanently. The beauty is that he never needs to announce it. For a Sigma female, words are cheap. What counts is the silent evidence in his behavior. And when a man is truly in love with her, his entire life starts bending toward permanence without him ever having to say a thing. Number 5. He develops an odd humility. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, something unusual happens to the way he carries himself. With most women, he may lean on charm, confidence, or even ego to create attraction. He might puff himself up, talk louder, or highlight his achievements to stand out. But with a Sigma female, that instinct evaporates. Instead of feeling the need to inflate, he feels the urge to strip down, mentally, emotionally, and even socially. Around her, humility doesn't feel like weakness, it feels like the only way to be real. This shift isn't forced. It's not him trying to be humble in hopes of impressing her. It's almost instinctive. He senses that bravado doesn't hold weight with her, because she isn't dazzled by status, possessions, or popularity. Her presence makes boasting feel cheap, even childish. The very things that once boosted his confidence with others now seem irrelevant, even laughable, when she's around. What takes its place is a quieter kind of strength. The ability to admit he doesn't know everything, to listen more than he talks, to drop the performance and stand in raw honesty. That humility becomes his strongest card, not because he planned it, but because with her it's the only thing that feels right. And here's the paradox. This odd humility doesn't shrink him. It actually expands him. When he no longer needs to posture, he becomes more grounded, more authentic, more magnetic in ways even he can't fully explain. The Sigma female doesn't fall for the man who tries hardest to look powerful. She respects the man who is comfortable enough to let power go. He realizes this without needing her to spell it out, and that realization rewires his entire behavior. It's not that he suddenly loses his confidence or ambition. He still has it, but he stops treating it like a weapon to win her over. His humility comes from recognizing that with her, real connection is worth more than ego. And in a strange way, he feels freer being stripped of the performance. Loving a Sigma female makes him humble, not because she demands it, but because her very existence makes pretense unnecessary. Number 6. He prioritizes her mental peace over his pride. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, the usual male instinct to win an argument starts to dissolve. Pride, for most men, is like armor. They protect it at all costs, even if it damages the relationship in the process. But with her, something shifts. Her mental peace becomes more valuable to him than his ego. The fight isn't about proving who's right anymore. It's about preserving her calm, because he understands how rare and non-negotiable that peace is in her world. A Sigma female doesn't argue for sport, nor does she enjoy unnecessary conflict. She values clarity, honesty, and balance. So when tension rises, he realizes that crushing her with clever words or flexing dominance isn't strength, it's sabotage. Instead, he learns the quiet art of restraint. He'll bite his tongue when he could score a point, lower his tone when things heat up, or even let go of being right, if it means protecting the serenity she fights so hard to maintain. This isn't weakness. It actually takes a sharper kind of strength to step back from ego and place someone else's inner world above your own pride. And that's exactly what love does to him. He sees that her peace of mind is more important than his temporary satisfaction of winning. By choosing calm over chaos, he's showing her a respect most men are too stubborn to offer. Over time, she feels the difference. With him, disagreements don't spiral into wars. They dissolve into solutions. She notices that he doesn't weaponize her mistakes, doesn't replay old arguments just to prove superiority, and doesn't cling to being the alpha in every exchange. Instead, he chooses the long game, protecting the bond instead of protecting his ego. What makes this behavior extraordinary is its invisibility. Outsiders might not even notice it, but she does. Every time he swallows pride for the sake of her mental clarity, she registers it as proof of his depth. A man in love with a Sigma female knows that her calm is sacred, and if that means sacrificing a little ego, he'll do it every single time. Number 7. He learns to read between her words. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, he begins to tune himself to her frequency in a way most people can't. She's not the type to overshare, exaggerate, or narrate every thought. Her words are often few, deliberate, and sometimes layered with meaning that isn't obvious to everyone. But instead of getting frustrated or assuming she's distant, he leans in deeper. He starts reading between her words, and that's where his love becomes visible. It's in the way he notices the pauses, the small shifts in tone, or the quiet sighs that slip out between sentences. To others it might sound like nothing, but to him it's a signal. If she says, "I'm fine," he doesn't just hear the words. He catches the weight behind them, the unspoken fatigue, or the subtle edge of discomfort. He deciphers what isn't said as carefully as what is, because he knows her silence often carries more truth than any long speech. This doesn't mean he pesters her with endless questions or forces her to explain herself. Instead, he responds with actions that show he understands. If she's drained, he adjusts the environment to make her more comfortable. If she's holding back, he gives her space without making it awkward. His ability to translate her subtle communication into real support becomes one of the clearest signs of his love. What makes this behavior powerful is that it requires patience and attentiveness, qualities most people lack. Many men only engage with the obvious, but he digs into the layers because he cares enough to see her fully. He's not listening for the sake of replying. He's listening to connect with the truth under her words. For the Sigma female, this kind of understanding is rare and disarming. She's used to being misread or oversimplified, but when a man can grasp the message, hiding in her pauses, it tells her something important. He isn't just interested in her surface, he's invested in her depth. And that quiet, intuitive translation of her silence into meaning is one of the clearest ways his love reveals itself. Number 8. He adjusts his tempo to hers. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, his sense of time begins to change. Without consciously deciding, he starts syncing his rhythm with hers. If she moves slowly, deliberately, and with patience, he finds himself slowing down too, savoring the pace instead of rushing. If she suddenly dives into something with intensity, he picks up speed to match her flow. It's not society's clock he follows anymore, it's hers. His life starts orbiting around her timing, almost like gravity pulling him into her rhythm. This isn't about control or submission, it's about alignment. He doesn't feel pressured to keep up with external expectations when he's with her. Instead, he feels grounded by her tempo, and he adapts because it feels natural, not forced. Where he once may have rushed decisions, overbooked his days, or lived frantically to meet demands, he learns to breathe slower in her presence. And when she ignites passion or urgency in something that matters to her, he accelerates without hesitation, because he wants to experience the ride at her side. Most people never adjust their pace for anyone. They either drag others along or get frustrated when someone doesn't match them. But for him, with her, it's different. He discovers a strange patience he didn't know he had. If she needs solitude, he can wait. If she's ready to move, he's ready too. Love pulls him into her timing so seamlessly that he doesn't even realize he's changed until he looks back and notices how much his life has shifted. What makes this so powerful is that Sigma females live by their own internal rhythm, not society's stopwatch. They reject the pressure to conform to everyone else's schedule. For a man to adjust to that rhythm, it means he's valuing her time more than the world's demands. It's an unspoken form of respect and devotion, proof that he isn't trying to drag her into his system but is willing to flow into hers. In love with her, he doesn't force her to catch up or slow down. He becomes fluid, bending his life to move in sync with hers. That adjustment, quiet but unmistakable, is one of the clearest signs he's no longer living just for himself. Number 9. He exposes his weak spots selectively. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, he starts showing parts of himself he would never reveal to anyone else. With most people, he keeps flaws, fears, and insecurities locked behind carefully constructed walls. He knows the world can be cruel, and he's learned to protect his vulnerabilities like treasure. But with her, something shifts. He allows her inside that room, but only on his terms. This exposure isn't random or careless. He doesn't spill weaknesses for sympathy or attention. Every revelation is deliberate, a quiet statement that she is the one person he trusts enough to see the real him. When he shares a fault, a past mistake, or a quiet fear, It's his way of communicating intimacy without saying a word. It signals that she occupies a space in his life that no one else does, a room in which only she has the key. He tests the waters, offering tiny glimpses at first. A joke that hints at insecurity, a small confession, or a fleeting glance of self-doubt. If she handles it without judgment, he allows himself to go deeper. Each disclosure is a calculated risk, because he knows a Sigma female's respect cannot be forced. She can't be bought with pity or emotional manipulation. Instead, she must earn the right to see him in full, and he reveals pieces of himself as proof of that trust. What makes this behavior extraordinary is that it transforms vulnerability into power. By choosing to expose only certain parts of himself, he maintains control while demonstrating intimacy. It's a dance between openness and self-preservation, and it tells her more about his commitment than any grand gesture could. For a Sigma female, this selective revelation is magnetic. She recognizes the unspoken boundaries, the careful trust, and the silent respect embedded in it. She senses that being allowed inside his inner world is an honor, not an obligation. And in that selective exposure, she finds a depth of connection that few others will ever see. A man whose love is not reckless but intentional, whose vulnerability is reserved for her alone. Number 10. He makes sacrifices she'll never see. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, his devotion often manifests in ways she might never notice. He doesn't make grand declarations or flashy gestures. Instead, his love shows up in the small, invisible adjustments he makes every day. He'll rearrange his schedule to accommodate her needs, take risks to protect her interests, or step into situations she doesn't even know existed, all quietly, without seeking credit or recognition. These sacrifices aren't about gaining her approval or making her indebted to him. They are instinctive. He sees her energy, her independence, and her need for space and serenity, and he acts in ways that preserve it, even if it costs him comfort, time, or convenience. He might cover for her when others are trying to pull her into unnecessary conflict. He might take the brunt of responsibility for things she doesn't need to be involved in. And most of the time, she won't see it. That's the point. This behavior is extraordinary because it requires a rare kind of patience and foresight. He has to anticipate what could disrupt her world, decide how to intervene without interfering, and carry the weight of those choices silently. It's not about heroics or ego. It's about subtle protection. His love becomes almost a background force, shaping her environment without her ever needing to notice. What makes this type of sacrifice magnetic to a Sigma female is that it respects her independence. He doesn't try to control her or make her dependent. He simply ensures that her path remains clear and undisturbed. There's no showmanship, no announcement, no expectation of gratitude. He isn't performing love, he is living it quietly, consistently, invisibly. In essence, his love hides in the unseen, in the moments and actions that go unnoticed by everyone but him. For a Sigma female, this kind of devotion resonates deeply, even if she never consciously acknowledges it. It's proof that he values her world, her peace, and her freedom more than recognition. And that silent commitment, more than anything else, is the truest measure of his love. Number 11. He gets unsettled by her detachment. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, her detachment affects him in ways most people wouldn't expect. She naturally pulls back, retreats into her own world, and guards her independence fiercely. And that's exactly what makes her magnetic. But for him, it stirs something deeper than frustration or impatience. He feels an ache, a subtle but undeniable pull whenever she withdraws. It's not about neediness or panic. It's an internal signal that her attention, her engagement, is a treasure he doesn't want to lose. He doesn't lash out or complain. He doesn't pressure her to explain herself or plead for connection. Instead, he quietly recalibrates, adjusting his approach in ways that demonstrate his presence and worth without encroaching on her space. He pays closer attention to how she communicates, the small gestures she does allow, and the rare openings she provides. Every move he makes is deliberate, aimed at earning that magnetic pull back to him while respecting the very boundaries that make her Sigma nature so powerful. This response is extraordinary because it requires both patience and emotional intelligence. Many men would interpret detachment as rejection and either push harder or give up entirely. but he perceives it differently. He understands that her withdrawal isn't a denial of him, it's a reflection of her independence and self-sufficiency. His love shows in how he works within that dynamic, engaging her mind and attention subtly without ever trying to possess her. What's fascinating is how this struggle reshapes him. He becomes more attentive, more strategic, and more aligned with her rhythm. He learns to communicate in ways that resonate deeply without breaking her flow. The ache he feels isn't a weakness. It's a compass pointing him to the actions that matter most. In essence, his love is revealed in how he responds to her distance, not with desperation, but with intentional effort. He honors her detachment while striving to reconnect, proving that his attachment to her isn't about control. It's about truly earning a place in the rare space she chooses to share. Number 12. He stops comparing her to other women. When a man is in love with a Sigma female, the old habit of comparison disappears almost instantly. Most people, consciously or not, stack women against one another, measuring looks, charm, or behavior against previous experiences. But with her, that framework feels not just useless but insulting. She doesn't fit into any category, any checklist, or any expectation. She's not like the others, and he knows it on a level deeper than observation. This isn't about exaggerating her value or putting her on a pedestal. It's a quiet, instinctive recognition that she operates on a different plane. Comparing her to anyone else undermines her uniqueness and his understanding of her. He doesn't need to measure. He just observes, learns, and adapts to her rhythm, her mind, and her world. Every previous standard becomes irrelevant because she doesn't conform to ordinary rules. What's extraordinary about this is how it changes his perception of himself and others. He stops evaluating other women by their attractiveness or social skills because those metrics no longer apply. His focus isn't on ranking or judging, it's on connection, respect, and understanding. This shift allows him to engage with her fully, without distraction or irrelevant benchmarks clouding his judgment. It also makes his admiration more genuine. He doesn't gush over her as if she's merely impressive. He respects her because she's singular. His love becomes rooted in acknowledgement, not comparison, and that depth is something she senses immediately. The absence of comparison communicates that he sees her, truly sees her, in ways few others ever will. In essence, stopping comparison is more than a mental adjustment. It's an alignment with her reality. He no longer evaluates through the lens of the ordinary because she is extraordinary. That recognition alone, silent and unwavering, signals a rare form of love, one that respects her individuality while refusing to reduce her to anything less than what she is, a Sigma female, unlike anyone else. Loving a Sigma female is unlike loving anyone else. It isn't about grand gestures, rehearsed lines, or surface-level attention. It's about quiet devotion, subtle adjustments, and invisible acts that reveal a depth most people never notice. A man in love with her learns to strip away ego, to read the unspoken, and to sync his life with hers, not out of obligation but out of reverence. He becomes a vault for her secrets, a silent protector of her peace, and a guardian of her reputation in rooms she may never enter. He sacrifices without fanfare, adapts to her rhythm, and exposes his vulnerabilities selectively, proving she alone holds access to the inner layers of his being. He stops comparing, stops performing, and stops chasing validation because with her, authenticity becomes currency and subtlety becomes power. Even his emotional responses, feeling her detachment, adjusting his tempo, prioritizing her calm over his pride, are proof of a love that isn't loud but is unshakably real. This love is extraordinary because it mirrors the extraordinary woman she is. She doesn't need to demand it, and he doesn't need to announce it. Every choice, every sacrifice, every quiet act of understanding signals a devotion that resonates far deeper than words ever could. Loving a Sigma female is a masterclass in patience, insight, and reverence, and for the man who truly embraces it, it changes the very way he experiences connection, intimacy, and life itself. If you recognized even a few of these behaviors, you've witnessed the rare and hidden ways love manifests with a Sigma female, and why it's unlike anything else in the world. If you found these hidden signs of love fascinating, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more rare insights, and share this with anyone who needs to see it. Drop a comment below telling us which sign surprised you the most, or if you've noticed these behaviors in someone you know. Your support helps us create even deeper, more powerful content that you won't find anywhere else. Don't miss out. Join the community and stay ahead of the game.